Earlier today I went into a Best Buy. Did I tell you about that?
No, you did not.
Yes. I had some time to kill, and I went in there, and there were no Blu-rays, and there were no DVDs. And I even went over to the
Oh,
game section, and even the game section was getting to be kind of paltry, and they're really pushing like the gift cards to buy things
yeah,
digitally.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, wow, this is the future today, and it's bleak and it's boring. And but if you want a washer dryer, there's plenty of those on the floor.
I was gonna say I didn't have as interesting a day, but I did run into a guy at an ATM, and for
Hmm.
some reason he was standing on one leg. And I said, "Why are you standing on one leg?" He goes, "I just want to check my balance."
But bum.
I stole that one from Culture Casino.
Welcome everybody to Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Agent Boomer. This is my co-host, Pa Pa Pacelli.
Hello.
Lady Miss, you were first. Welcome. Thank you for the flowers. Big Al. Good evening, my friends. Have a great stream. Chris P. Good evening. I don't know if you've gotten your new X account, but let me know if you have. I'll try to hunt for you. Let's see. Horizon Talker. Welcome. Deep Pensec. Hey, you guys.
Yep,
About
I
the
knew
electric
exact. I
company.
heard it. I heard it in Rita Moreno's voice as soon as I read it.
I think of that from the Goonies, but I guess the character in the Goonies, I kept saying that, got it from the Electric Company.
Yes.
You
Oh,
probably
see,
watched it
yeah,
on
you're
TV.
you're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
young enough where you missed the cutoff on the Electric Company.
But
That's
that's
right.
probably the reference in that movie was probably to the Electric Company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Um, but let's see who else is here. Last call, Troy Pacelli.
Hello.
Netters Network at a high, sweetie. Thank you. And let's see who else is here. I know Deleted Scenes was having a interesting stream earlier, talking about people who support the current thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Zootopia. And yeah, we're going to have some interesting topics to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I'm seeing
Uh,
a lot of interesting topics that we don't even have on the docket tonight. I see that WDW Pro just dropped a video
what?
uh, stating that Bluey, which is not even owned by Disney, it's just licensed by Disney, is worth more than Star Wars and Marvel combined.
What the heck is Bluey?
Bluey. It's a kids show. It's
It's a
just
kid's
a
show.
yeah. It's I think they're licensed. Is that a UK show or something like that? I don't know. Never saw it. I'm obviously not the demographic for it,
I
but
don't know. I'm not the demographic for
it's the
kids
only
stuff.
thing that anyone is really watching on Disney Plus. It
Well,
seems.
that says something, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Upload file. I have to upload my. I didn't. I should have done this earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just I was telling Troy earlier before I got on. I went to see they had a replay of The Mummy at Regal Cinemas, and I did catch it today, one of those Fathom events. And I remember seeing this is the one with Brendan Fraser.
Yep.
Remember that from 1999?
Yep. Yep.
Remember that came out 1 week before the Phantom Menace. I could have done Good Old Days on The Mummy tonight. I didn't even think about that. Oh well, maybe another week. But let's see here. Geeky Geezers. Is this the
And hey,
right?
Dee Dee Meyer, welcome, welcome.
But yeah, I don't know though. I remember '99 when you would go to see a movie and you didn't have to worry about. You just had to worry about.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
there
just
wasn't any
about having a
particular.
good time.
I was just and I'm looking through the movies I want to do for tomorrow night, and I'm like, one of the ones I looked at. Not sure what I'm doing. Don't take this as an announcement or anything. Just a peek behind the curtain on my decision making process. I looked at the '76 King Kong, and I was like,
Ah,
oh, there was some messaging in there a little bit. You could argue that there's a little, anti big business, anti oil message in it, but it
right.
is so small.
It's not
You
in your
know,
face.
no, it's absolutely not, and it's not.
Plus, you had Jessica Lange in it, so
Yeah, well, that totally counterbalances any negatives.
any
I was
negative.
gonna say, look, I don't care where you fall on the political spectrum. You're like, yeah, I can get behind this particular messaging, sure.
Here we go. Look at this.
Okay, yes, I did get a little clickbaity with this, but there's a reason for it.
What are you doing to me? I did. That's an interesting picture of of the lovely lady, lovely Lara Croft there. I remember from back in the day. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. I do like the Clockwork Orange with Disney Plus thing you have going on there.
Do you catch that?
Yeah,
if you don't get the
on.
connection there, we'll explain it. Yeah.
Imagine being forced to watch Ahsoka over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Till the end of time. Welcome, Dee Dee Myers. If I missed anybody else, sorry.
You did say Zootopia, right?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Fun thing.
David Pensack, and I think we got everybody.
This gentleman is back in the news. You can see my pointer. I don't know if you can, but
no, I'm not.
No,
seeing
okay,
the
you
pointer.
can't see the pointer. Okay, well, it's Mr. Harvey Weinstein is back in the news. We'll get that about him.
I've done a good deep dive analysis on that, so I can speak to that with. I am not an attorney, and I don't even play one on YouTube, but I do follow all the law tubers on YouTube and get into the details and the nerdy aspects of the law. So I do have an intelligent commentary to bring to all of you.
Gotcha. All right, but first, the good old days.
That looks like you're going to be talking about a real Doctor Who. That's Jon Pertwee.
Yes, Jon Pertwee. For many years, for us in the States, if you wanted to watch complete episodes of Doctor Who, basically first and second Hartnell and Troughton's era, it's a mishmash. There were tons of lost episodes. You didn't really get to watch them.
Yeah.
But I think when they first came over here, they did start with Tom Baker. But when they ran out of those, they would repeat, and we got all the Jon Pertwee era episodes.
Yeah.
This, I believe, started in 1970. Is that right?
That sounds right to me, yeah.
I think this was 1970, and he is the third Doctor Who. I would watch these in repeats on PBS. I'm sure you did as well. One of the advantages of being an American is, unlike in Britain, where they would be show it once and that was it for all time for a long time. Mm-hmm. Over here, PBS would just show them every week on Saturday evenings usually. And
for us, it was Sunday nights, but yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, I guess.
Well, yeah, because remember the PBS stations weren't national like BBC is. So we had WTTW here in Chicago. You had a different one in New Jersey.
To be fair, some of the PBS stations may not even show Doctor Who.
That's true. You weren't guaranteed.
I was actually lucky because I lived in the part of New Jersey I lived in. I was close to New York City. So I got both the New Jersey PBS and the New York PBS. And they would show the Doctor Who episodes differently. I think the New York one would show theirs in the afternoon. And they were going through a different cycle. So when we were on like Peter Davidson, they might be on Jon Pertwee or something like that. So I would be able to watch. And I think the New York station would show them episode by episode. So you'd get like the closing credits, then the next episode, the next part. Whereas the one in New Jersey, I think, cut them in such a way that they just ran together as one whole thing.
That's kind of cool, actually.
So it was kind of
I could see that.
Interesting how they did it both ways. But yeah, this is Jon Pertwee era. This was different than many than the prior Doctor eras. In fact, because at the end of the Troughton era, he got into big trouble with the Time Lords.
Yep. Yes,
they
he did.
punished him, and
they literally stole a regeneration from him back then, and it was kind of reconfirmed during the Matt Smith era that they only got a dozen. They only got a dozen do-overs, so to speak.
Dozen do-overs, yeah.
So that means 13 total incarnations, counting your first one. And they were stealing one away from him. This was, let's face it, this was not long after they'd even established the concept of the regeneration. After this first Doctor, and it was really because Hartnell's health had deteriorated so badly, they needed to replace him to continue the show. And so they did the regeneration into Patrick Troughton, and they did it.
Some thought maybe he was just becoming young again. That was
it was a rejuvenation. In fact, that's just it. They called it a rejuvenation. They didn't even call it a regeneration.
And even this, I think they said they were going to give him a new face and new identity. But But to be fair, now we know this to be regeneration. To be
Well,
fair,
and it was by this time. It was by this time when they were replacing him. They were like, now we're going to establish the lore behind what regeneration is.
It really comes into the full in his regeneration sequence at the end of his run. That's when you get more details on this.
And what you realize, and I'll tell you, that last episode, the one that does the regeneration into, well, it's actually at the denouement of the episode, so it cuts off. But there's this trial that Troughton goes through.
Yes.
And think about it. What they're basically sentencing him to is losing potential years of his life. We're cutting off this regeneration. We're forcing a new one on you. And he basically says, you don't have the right to do that. I mean, and there's the implication, well, we give you these regenerations to begin with. So, yeah, we kind of do have that right.
They exiled him.
And they exiled him.
You do not get to. You have the TARDIS, but it will be non-functional. You can't time travel.
Exactly.
With it.
So what happens is at the very end, the cliffhanger with Troughton is, he's regenerating. He comes out of the TARDIS on Earth.
Yes.
Doesn't even know when he is.
Nope.
And he just kind of collapses as Jon Pertwee. So we never actually see the actual
regeneration.
I mean, people have done edits to put the end of the first part together with the second part, but you don't actually see the transformation like you do when you go from Pertwee to Tom Baker and every subsequent time thereafter almost.
Yeah, but I think they did it because I think this is one of these instances where the show had to really be retooled. I think it was under budget now because this is one of the reasons they took away the time travel, or they took away the time travel aspect because they stranded on Earth because they had to save money on the show. Exactly. But these episodes are now shot in color. We're in 1970. This is no longer a black and white series as it had been under Hartnell and Troughton.
Yeah.
And I think they started using video for some segments and film for others, right?
Became a big common thing in British television where exterior shots would be done. And in fact, this still shot that you have showing right here is obviously an exterior shot. Yeah. This is film.
Yes.
Right? Whereas all the interior shots are video, and you could tell the difference in quality. You might not have known why it was that way, but it's like, wow, every time it goes outside, it looks like a movie, and every time they're inside, it looks like, a sitcom.
A home movie. Or no.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's government television, and
exactly.
It's probably some arbitrary rule someone made up because it would make sense just to do everything one way. Or do everything the other way.
Yeah. There was, my understanding is they would have gone video the whole way, except I guess someone who has more technical knowledge than I might be able to explain it. I guess there's something about exterior shots and lighting and stuff that made video not such bad quality they couldn't do it.
I see. That makes sense. But
here's the first scene you see him, and it's still wearing the costume of Troughton. Yeah,
he falls to the ground, and this is the episode Spearhead from Space.
Yep,
which I did while I was working on the notes last night. I didn't realize this, but Tubi, a free streaming service, has all the classic Doctor Who. I thought it was just Peter Davison, but when I signed in. No, it even has like the animated episodes where they've reconstructed them. They're on there too. So you get commercials. It's not quite as good as having your own copy or watching it on something else, but it's free. So that's always a plus. So I was watching this. I was watching the classic Spearhead from Space, the first premiere episode, and that was the introduction of the Autons, which I thought was
it was the intro. Well, yeah, actually, the whole Pertwee run was the introduction of a lot of elements. Not so much Unit and the Brigadier, who's pictured here. They were introduced in the Second Doctor's era. But this was their focus. You could have almost done a spin-off of Unit right from here if you wanted to. Did want to welcome FKHC 2005. Makes a reference to the season 6B.
Yes,
it's not really a theory. There is some, I guess you'd call them expanded universe type stories of the Troughton Doctor being forced into servitude to the Time Lords.
Yeah,
between
we'll get into that.
between the time that he is he begins his regeneration until you see him coming out as Pertwee. And they're fine stories, but they don't really affect canon so much. So whether you consider them canon or not is it's not relevant. It's not like they squeeze an extra doctor in there or anything.
Let's see. Technology for video 1970 was still very primitive, and camera sensors were not up to dealing with bright areas, i.e. the sky.
That makes sense. Okay, I knew it was something like that, David.
Yes.
Thanks.
A lot of British shows are like if you watch an old Fawlty Towers episode, right? It's going to be outside is going to be film, and then inside video. Right?
I think most Americans first realized it through Monty Python.
Right. Yeah, but this is the Brigadier. This was kind of interesting because he basically has to. He ends up, because he's helped out the Earth before and worked with UNIT, which is the United Nations Intelligence Task Force, headlined by Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart here.
Yep.
My dad was a big fan of his on the old Doctor Who show, and very clean cut. I don't want to say like gentry, like British gentlemen here who would work with the Doctor to stop alien menaces and also terrestrial menaces that we'll get into as well. It's not always about aliens from space that are on this series as well. Sometimes it's about humans messing with things they shouldn't be messing with, and maybe even other creatures that exist on the Earth with us currently, or at least they did at one point. But there's the three of them. There's Liz Shaw to the right. He was
Liz, right?
Yeah, Liz Shaw. She was his companion the first season. She was she was actually a pretty smart scientist lady. And I like that costume.
But we never had strong, intelligent women before the modern era, so I don't know what you're talking about.
She was full on a scientist. She was even making fun of the Brigadier about, are you serious about these alien menaces, little blue men with antennas? And she's very rational and clinical, but neat character on this show.
Greetings, Curtis Selby, Matt Anui, and Pacific 414. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, but I like this. The British do science fiction in a very interesting way that I think is different than how we Americans would do it. Like, they're all about, like, going back to War of the Worlds, they're very about, like, hey, some of these menaces from space, they can be very
dangerous,
horrible monsters coming to our planet and messing us up. I'm not saying we haven't done that here in the States, but the British had a particular way of doing it. They made a point that Quatermass, which I know was later turned into a movie, but Quatermass was originally in the 50s a BBC like miniseries.
Right.
It was a big deal at the time, and they say Doctor Who, especially this era of Doctor Who, took a lot of influence from that.
Sure,
it was all about them dealing with had a smart scientist on it, having to deal with an alien menace coming to the Earth. But there's one of the Autons.
Yeah,
that is creepy.
Yep.
When you have a bunch of mannequins breaking out of store windows because now they're being controlled by this tentacle thing, brain thing called the nesting consciousness, and they're going around shooting civilians in London.
Yeah.
Right?
So those of you that didn't see Doctor Who until the new era would remember the first episode of the new era under Russell T Davies was Rose, and again, the Nestine and the Autons were the introduction.
First seen in the Web of Fear. It was good adding him as a regular. He was this era had its own flavor to it, and I do like it. We have the Silurians.
The Silurians, two different subspecies. You had the aquatic and the subterranean and whatnot. But it's based on a very real hypothesis that there may have been a great society that existed and disappeared on Earth before humans arose. It's conceivably possible, hypothetically speaking, and it seems most reasonable that they would have been some sort of reptilian, because up until a major extinction occurred, dinosaurs were the primary the dominant species on Earth.
This is very much a can you hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is very much they said this was a Cold War analog too at the time. for, I guess, Great Britain and the Soviets and all
Sure.
that. And
Makes
just because,
sense.
like, can these two divergent groups, humans and the Silurians, live together on the same planet? The Silurians want to take over the world and, I guess, wipe the humans out or whatever. I think that
And
was
it was,
yeah.
as you pointed out, a great dealing with aliens that weren't really aliens. If
These aren't
anything,
aliens, yeah.
they're as terrestrial as we are. In fact, more so because they predate us, right?
The Doctor treated them. He did not go after them like these are an alien menace. He was trying to reason with them, saying, "Listen, there are parts of the Earth where humans like can't live, like these very dry deserts, where you could take over those areas. You can live in peace with the humans." Because
Yeah.
he didn't. He loves the Earth and he loves the human race, but he felt bad for this other species. He's like, no, this.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're doing bad things, trying to get at the humans and take over. But he's like, no. You two should be able to figure out a way to coexist.
Yeah, and from the
with each
point
other.
of view
Yes.
of a Time Lord,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sorry, humans, but these guys are your, you know, your planet mates. You need to figure out how to get along with them.
And of course, the episode had one of this big shocking endings where I guess the Silurians are forced to go back into the hibernation that they came from because they're
Right.
like just going to go into hibernation again. We can't handle this. Like they beat them at their plan, and then the Brigadier, after they go into hibernation, I guess he detonates a bomb or something and destroys them. Right?
Yeah.
And the Doctor was like, "That was murder. That was
Yeah.
cold-blooded murder." And he would bring that up with the Brigadier in later episodes, like,
Yeah.
"Oh, they want to wipe us out or something." Saying, "Oh, you mean like how you wiped out the Silurians?" You know?
Yeah,
He would
exactly.
bring it up because it was.
And I don't
Yeah.
blame him. It's like, look, you know, you need to be intellectually honest. Let's, you know, you are being a hypocrite if you, you know. We'll talk more about hypocrisy
Brigadier
later
would
on.
probably say they threw the first punch and were trying to save it. Yeah, but I think the idea was, especially from the Doctor's point of view, that was a
Hey,
wrong
Mr.
thing to do.
Matchstick.
The finale of this season.
Oh yeah.
I love this episode. I had missed it when I was younger because I think I was away on vacation the week this aired, and I could never catch it. I finally caught it like maybe a decade ago when I finally watched Inferno. I always heard of this episode. The Doctor, in an effort to fix the time machine, the TARDIS, trying to get the time travel portion worked, he keeps messing with it, and the machine slips sideways. And he basically says, "I didn't go forward or back. I went sideways." Ends up in an alternate universe version of London, Great Britain, and it is like something out of George Orwell's 1984.
Yep.
The Brigadier has an eye patch. He's called the Brigade Leader. They had murdered the royal family. Like I think the guy running the society is a dictator. It's a horrible place.
If I could just interrupt you right there, they called him the Brigade Leader, which is somebody understanding where the term Brigadier comes from.
Yes.
I think that's very clever.
Yes. But meanwhile, on both Earths, there's this corporation, or maybe in these other Earth, it was the government. They were trying to drill into the Earth, into the Earth's core to get unlimited energy or something, right? And the trouble is that one, people were getting infected, like on the atomic level, and being turned to these horrible, almost zombie-esque monsters, feral zombie-esque monsters. Look at that guy in the lab coat; he looks horrifying. And I think they kept doing it on the alternative Earth at the same time, and they ended up striking something they shouldn't have struck, and the entire Earth is going to get engulfed in flame on that planet, and the Doctor is able to slip back to his Earth, the parallel line, just in time. But then he also has to stop the corporation from doing what this other alternative Earth did.
Right.
As far as because otherwise the Earth is going to get our Earth is going to get destroyed.
Exactly.
So, it's a wonderful finale of that season. Excellent job, I thought they did on that. This is Liz Shaw, no longer with us in the second season. I like the fact that the reasoning is, she got a promotion and went elsewhere instead of it being she died or that. No, because you could always bring her back someday if you wanted to. You don't have to have the companions have a miserable end. It's like here we have Jo Grant. She was my favorite companion. When she first shows up, the Doctor's horrified. He's like, "I need a scientist," because Liz Shaw was a scientist, and she's not a scientist. She's a unit officer, obviously. Like, she does cryptology and things like that. But nice looking lady, I always thought. But she said, "I took science. I took science at A level. And he says, "That's very nice, dear." Then later on, when she couldn't figure something out or something, he said, "I thought you took science at A level," and she said, "I took it. I didn't pass it," which I
Yep.
thought was funny. But there's Joe Grant, and of course, in the first episode, we get introduced to Joe Grant, but also introduced to the Doctor's arch nemesis, the Master. First episode, and when he first appears in the Jon Pertwee era, played by Roger Delgado. If I remember correctly, right?
Yep.
Sinister actor, and what I thought was cool, not every episode, but almost every episode of the Pertwee era for a while is just him and the Master's latest scheme, right?
Yep.
I think in the first episode he's working with the Autons, the villains we saw in Spirit of Phrase. He's the alien menace. He's working with them. But yeah, he was the main villain on the second Doctor's run. Like, I think he worked with the Sea Devils. That was that other offshoot dinosaur race. Remember the like the Silurians? They were aquatic though, right?
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, Roger Delgado died in the midst of the third season, I think, or one of them. And they still sort of wrapped up the storyline he was on, but they weren't able to. Their original plan was to have him and the Doctor have a final confrontation. The Master dies in flames or something. It was going to be this big deal, but then they couldn't use him anymore. They didn't know what to do, so they just had to move on. And eventually we'd get other Masters later on, because of course, like the Doctor, he can have other regenerations and other things, but that's a topic for another time.
Yeah.
We did get the Daleks during the Jon Pertwee era, now in color.
Yes, absolutely.
Apparently, Jon Pertwee never liked the Daleks. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I can kind of understand a number of reasons
he
why.
Preferred like the more physical alien type creatures, not the things in the suits, I guess.
Yeah, the slow moving tanks kind of probably weren't as exciting for him. Sure.
He liked the Ogrins, this almost orc like alien race the Daleks had working for them. He thought they were neat.
Right.
Which they introduced. They never brought them back for some reason after the Pertwee era. I thought that actually makes sense to me, that even though the Daleks are about exterminate, it probably makes sense for them to have a not too intelligent but like orc-like species that would work for them to do other jobs, right?
Yep.
You could always wipe them out last. Right?
True.
Anyway, we have Peladon, the planet Peladon. They did a few episodes here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this is in the far future, and there's a federation of allied worlds. And look who is one of the allied members with Earth and the other worlds are the Ice Warriors, who were villains in the Troughton era. Remember?
Yep.
But in the far future, they only fight to keep peace. They're no longer a warlike race, which I thought was interesting. Like, what is it? Hundreds of years in the future, they've changed.
Right.
Because at first you think they're the ones behind the bad stuff going on in this episode, because you're seeing an Ice Warrior. But then no, those were the Ice Warriors of the past. We're not like that anymore. The big deal of the three Doctors.
Yes.
During this episode, this was the first reunion type episode. We had Patrick Troughton. We had William Hartnell, I think. He could only do so much stuff physically in this episode, though. Like, he was like bound to a chair, like through a visor, provided that was him. Was he in this?
Was this the one where they talked to him over a Visicom?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It was him.
I think he was not in the best of health, but he still did the episode like through the Visicom. Yeah.
And I think there was a story element where he was captured or held prisoner or something, and he was giving advice from where he was and
where
stuff.
He was, yeah. And of course, the big villain in this episode was Omega, right?
Omega, yes, exactly.
Omega, who was one of the Time Lords that was instrumental in helping them create time travel.
Yep.
But ended up getting sucked.
Omega, Rassilon, and the other.
And the other. They ever explain who the other was?
In meta canon they have, but within canon, no, they have.
Okay. So, Omega is here. And I think he was there with Rassilon, but he fell into like this black hole. But he was considered a hero among the Time Lords, and he says, like when Pertwee was talking, he's like, "No, we what did you do, dude? What did you do for me?" Or whatever. He says, "What are you talking about? In Gallifrey, you were one of our greatest heroes." And he goes, "Hero? I should have been a god." Remember what he said?
Yeah. Sounds like a Time Lord, though.
I think he went nuts after being sucked into a black hole or something.
Something like that. Yeah. Which of course is what that was part of the origin of the Eye of, what is it?
Eye of Orion.
Whatever it is that
Yeah.
powers all of their
Yeah.
regenerations and time travel and stuff. And I don't remember if it was canon or deuterocanon that said that Rassilon kind of set him up to end up getting sucked into the black hole so that he could be, alive and take all the credit and everything.
Interesting. Carolyn John was pregnant toward the end of filming season 7.
That
That's
makes
why.
sense. Yeah.
Okay. What's more important, Doctor Who or your kid? Come on. I'm joking.
Well, she had to get that thing out of her,
He's my favorite master. Oh, yeah, Roger Delgado. He
Yeah,
was a great
exactly.
master. He might be the best, though. I did like Anthony Ainley a lot. We've had good masters since then, but Roger Delgado kind of set the standard, I think. We have an introduction.
Oh, the potato people, yes.
The Centaurans. I love the
Centaurans.
Centaurans. That was one of the few times on New Who where I thought they did the Centaurans right.
I agree.
With
Yeah.
I think it was the 4th season episode, because I kind of was annoyed at how they did the Cybermen, but I thought the Centaurans they were spot on with.
Yeah.
Which I kept thinking, was this a race of clones, or
Yes.
did they just okay? They were a race of clones. I thought so. The alien races are the enemy alien races on Doctor Who are so weird,
Yeah.
and they make you uncomfortable with how.
And well, they should.
Like Alpha Centauri here, maybe he's an eyeball with a few tentacles, but he or she, I don't remember now, is a nice guy. Okay.
Yeah.
He's not. But yeah, this guy, no. And of course, we have in the first episode of the Star, we have the introduction of Sarah Jane Smith.
Yep. Absolutely. Personally, my favorite companion.
Your favorite companion? That's
Yeah.
fine.
I know you said that Katie Manning was your favorite, but
Joe Grant. Oh, Katie
yeah.
Manning. Yeah, that's the actress. Yes.
Yeah, but that's only because she posed nude with the gold Dalek in Girl
What?
Illustrated.
What? You didn't
Oh, I
didn't
thought
know-
that's why she was.
No,
here.
I didn't know this.
You didn't even know about this?
I did not know this.
Yeah, Katie
wow.
Manning posed nude with the gold Dalek and some of the other props in a magazine back in '76. It was called Girl Illustrated, and
Oh, my goodness.
although my buddy who introduced me to Doctor Who didn't actually have that magazine,
Of course not.
some of those pics did make it into Unnatural Selection and some other magazines.
Interesting. No, a nice looking lady. So was, of course, her actress's name is escaping me. Sarah Jane Smith.
Oh, Liz
Elizabeth
Sladen.
Sladen. Yes. But yeah, I like her in the leather jacket. I think that's a good look for her.
Oh yeah.
And I think Joe Grant was a hard act to follow, but of course Sarah Jane Smith, she rose to the challenge. She's in many respects the most iconic of the Doctor Who companions. That's her from the finale with the from Planet of the Spiders with a giant spider on her back.
Exactly, which I always felt had some sort of an influence on that one episode with Donna Noble, where she had the parasite on her back that she couldn't see.
Probably.
Yeah.
That was a good final episode too. He went up against this extraterrestrial spider queen, right? As
Exactly.
I recall, and I think he got poisoned
Yep.
in an effort to stop the whole thing from happening. And then I think he regenerates, and that's when we're introduced to the whole concept of regeneration. Was that
Exactly.
episode? And then of course he becomes Tom
And of
Baker.
course, Sarah Jane is like all confused and whatnot, and Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart is like, oh yeah, this happens from time to time.
Well, he was confused too when he first ran into.
Well, at first, until he realized, oh, this is another one of those situations. Okay.
They call themselves. Oh, Alpha Centauri is a hermaphrodite. Well,
Oh, okay.
They call themselves it. I gotcha. Okay, Spider Planet. Thank you. But yay, Sarah Jane. I like this pairing. Yeah, they worked well together. In fact, when they did the second reunion, the Five Doctors, they paired her up with Pertwee again for that episode, which I thought was neat. But that's it. That's Jon Pertwee. I mean, I think here's my issue. I think Jon Pertwee's era is underrated.
It is.
I think part of the problem is he's coming off of Troughton and Hartnell, which were the first, right? And then Tom Baker takes over, and Tom Baker is basically,
Yeah.
I mean, the only one who matches him in popularity is David Tennant, I think. Maybe David
Those
Tennant's
that
more popular.
watched it,
Yeah.
in Britain when he
Yeah.
was current, he was one of the big ones for going and doing like other events, other shows, showing up on Blue Peter or whatever it was, the different kids shows and whatnot.
Oh, that's great.
He seemed to be having genuine fun doing this show, and he seemed to even care about things related to like canon and continuity. Like, for example, this is so granular. I think most of the fans didn't mind it so much, but Jon Pertwee was, as most men of his age had served in the military, and he had a tattoo on his forearm, which in one scene you actually see. So he suggested to the writers that there was this reason from back in the day when he was at the academy that he had this thing, and I guess the implication would be, in theory, that all other doctors had this same looking tattoo. It has some sort of technological function, I guess. But you never saw it. He was the first one where you see his bare arms, and he was far more physically fit than his predecessors, which is where he's kind of the one that starts they make the jokes about all the running that the Doctor does in the later incarnations. Well, it kind of started with this rather more physical Doctor.
He knew Venusian judo, remember?
Venusian judo.
He would get physical with the bad guys sometimes, yes.
He introduced that concept. He also, and again, I'm saying the actor, not just the character, because these were suggestions he made that ended up making it into the show. The whole thing about there is a Time Lord character who was like a monk or something. That he had studied under, and this monk character is shown twice. Once, and then the other is after the regeneration.
I remember because he was the one explaining regeneration to Sarah Jane Smith. Yes,
exactly. Yeah. And so it was because of Pertwee wanting to get some Buddhist context and concepts into the lore, and I was like, okay, yeah, I dig that. Left HMS Hood just before it went out to look for the Bismarck. Interesting. Yep. That I did not know. But yeah, it kind of makes sense because, let's face it, that was... have seen the commercial for the 81.
I know the one. If I think I know the one you're talking about, maybe this isn't the one you're talking about. Though I know that there was a corporate video made for corporations where he guest starred as a guy who was supposed to be a doctor, and he made some joke at the end about, what can I do for you? And then he says to the lady, get your something out, it was an off-color joke. I can tell you, though, Jon Pertwee, I have a suspicion in real life he was nothing but a gentleman, and I'll explain to you why.
Yeah.
Ingrid Pitt guest starred in an episode of Doctor Who Season 3. And Ingrid Pitt is a very nice-looking lady. Yep. Okay, who apparently had to get Orson Welles off of her one time, which apparently she wrote about in her book or something. Anyway, Ingrid Pitt, though, okay? And I know that she got him... After she had started the episode of Doctor Who, when Amicus did their anthology movie, The House That Dripped Blood, she recommended, hey, you're casting me. Cast Jon Pertwee as my co-star in this scene. She must have loved working with him. So that was... I suspect he was probably a gentleman. In real life.
That does say a lot for his character. He is also the reason. I'm surprised you didn't mention or bring up pictures of. He wanted there to be vehicles involved, and he thought it would also be a good marketing ploy. So it was because of him that Bessie was introduced, and the Who-mobile.
Yes, the car. There was a lot of good stuff on in his era. Now, of course, he does get the TARDIS back in a later season, because that's after helping the Time Lords stop Omega and his horrible plans. The Time Lords, okay, we will give you access to your TARDIS again. I think that's what they gave him the thing back. Yeah, the component that he needed.
Yep.
Because I guess they figured, well, you saved Gallifrey, I guess we have to do something. Ingrid Pitt, she... Oh, yeah, she was. She was in Stutthof concentration camp as a kid. Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
She was a child witnessing things in a concentration camp because she was also Jewish, and
Yep.
things that no child should ever have to witness, and she survived it. And you know how her and her mother survived it? When the Allies were coming forth, the soldiers are marching all the people in the concentration camp out into the woods, and then she figures they're going to shoot us in the back before they leave. And then suddenly planes come overhead and start shooting at the guardsmen that were leading them off. And then her and her mother, they she basically they get on the ground, and she tells her daughter, play dead.
Yeah.
Play dead. Pretend
Yep.
like you got shot. And that's what they did. And people don't understand, back then when they were trying to find their family and get back to where they were supposed to go, it took months.
Yep.
Or a long time before people separated by that horrible experience. It took ages. And she was in Wild Geese 2. I don't know what that is, but I'll have to look into it. She was also in The Wicker Man, in a bathtub in one scene. Anyway, let's move on. And in The Countess Dracula, also bathing herself in one scene. Anyway, let's move on to the stories of the night. Reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. Was that Pertwee's line?
Yes, it was. I don't know if he came up with it or not, but yes, he was the one that introduced that line. Yes.
It's the threadiest of thready threats. Just reverse the polarities. Yes. Okay. Yes.
So this is
Star Trek. It would have had something to do with doing something with tachyon pulses or something.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
This is, of course, an update from an article from last week.
Yes. Article from last week. Hold on, give me a moment. I have to get my notes. I was too busy talking about Pertwee era Doctor Who.
That's perfectly fine.
And like I said, the big Joe Grant fan, and I don't know. I didn't know we were.
Well, thanks for letting us know that Wild Geese 2 was a sequel to the Wild Geese. I'm glad you're here to tell us that. No, I'm just kidding with you. I'm just messing.
Is that like a Carry On style movie or something?
I don't know. I mean,
okay.
I'd hope that, although, I shouldn't say it's so self-evident, because we did have Leonard 6, and there weren't 5 previous films called Leonard, so.
Here we go. Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered will restore missing posters in patch 3. What? Yeah. Aspire released a brand new patch for Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered earlier this month, which removed the posters from Tomb Raider 3 Sleeping with the Fishes. The developers now issued a response on its official support page stating the posters were inadvertently removed and will be restored in the next major update.
There's no inadvertently. If you are doing a restoration, you have to consciously remove something like that. So don't give us that bull crap.
Thank you to the Tomb Raider community for your continued feedback and support for Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered, starring Lara Croft. Who else would be in them? Anyway. In the recent release patch 2, we made several texture and graphical updates to the HD version. As part of these updates, the posters Sleep with the Fishes, the Lost Artifact, were inadvertently removed in the HD version of the game. This has been resolved, and these textures will be restored in patch 3. It is not known when exactly the third patch will be released, but when we find out, we'll let you know. That's
translation. The fans were so pissed off and raised such a ruckus about it that they were like, oh crap, we're not going to get away with this.
You know what? At least they listened and are restoring it.
Well, I think it's getting harder and harder not to. It's like these companies are doing so poorly and losing so much profit. If they want to stay viable and keep their jobs, they better start doing what the fans want.
Do the consumers bidding like a pathetic company should. Listen to me. Listen to me. Aspire is not pathetic. They did a great job on this Tomb Raider 1 through Remastered and a great job on the Star Wars Battlefront. Oh, wait. No, they didn't.
I was like, how far can he get into this and keep a straight face?
No, apparently the Star Wars Battlefront 1 into Remaster, and this is something, too, I'm sorry, the shills in the gaming media, they were like, yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not a full-on remaster, but it's a great little package. And then finally the people were picking apart, saying, no, there's this wrong, this wrong. You're better off getting the original versions off of Steam of these than this remastered version.
Right.
And you can also get the original versions on Xbox because they do the backwards compatible thing. And it's like, no, apparently these were not well received. And then I noticed Nintendo Life were late with their review, and they were able to just bash it. And I don't know if they did that because I think that people were trying to give them a pass on it, and then the customers who played it said, no, this is not good.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Oh. Well, that doesn't sound good.
This is where you're supposed to mute. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
I'm fine. I'm just coughing my lungs inside out. That's all.
Oh, I hope not. I have to tell you something. For what they charge for popcorn at a movie theater, it should be better than it is.
Yeah. It doesn't... I'll tell you something about theater popcorn. It isn't as good as it smells.
No, it isn't. Because I got myself a small cherry icy, which is like an extra large in most places.
Yeah.
Because I got the small cherry icy, and then I got myself a single serve popcorn, which is still a good portion. I don't think I finished the whole thing, and it's not that good. And there was one theater chain that had really good popcorn. I think it was Carmike Cinemas. I don't know if they're still around. Their popcorn was like it's supposed to be, with the proper oil that you use to pop it and everything. But yeah, just no. What am I doing here? I think they use canola oil, which is what you're supposed to use. But
no. You're supposed to use coconut oil.
I thought it was canola.
Don't use any seed oil. Horizon Talker, have a good night. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Okay. Anyways, well, you're going to miss out on this lovely Embracer news. Sorry, Embracer news, not Embracer news. What am I doing?
Well, in a different context, okay.
Lord of the Rings owner, Embracer, are they really the Lord of the Rings owner?
Well,
it feels like they're a bunch of owners because you have New Line. I guess maybe
that baby's been completely split. Yeah.
Lord of the Rings owner Embracer is separating the group into 3 games and entertainment companies: Asmodee Group, Coffee Stain and Friends, and Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends. Asmodee is a tabletop games publisher and distributor with a studio network and IP catalog. Coffee Stain and Friends is a gaming entity with a dual focus on indie and single A, double A premium free-to-play games for PC and mobile. So these are like little games. Okay.
Right.
And Middle Earth Enterprise and Friends is going to be known for its AAA game development and publishing for PC and console, as well as managing the Lord of the Rings and Tomb Raider IPs. AAA is the term used to classify video games produced or distributed by a major publisher, which usually have higher development and marketing budget than other tiers of games. So basically, the indie studio or the single A studio gets less money than the Lord of the Rings studio, right?
Apparently, yeah.
The company's board of directors proposes that shares in the 2 entities, Asmodee and Coffee Stain and Friends, will be distributed to the shareholders of Embracer Group and listed on NASDAQ Stockholm. Middle Earth Enterprise and Friends will remain within the current listed company, Embracer Group, which will eventually be renamed at the same time as the Coffee Stain and Friends spinoff. This strikes me as, this is weird. It's like they're splitting the company into 3 companies? Is that what I'm getting?
That does seem to be the...
But this isn't like a stock split, right? Because that's when something else happens, right?
Yeah, no, they're just dividing the company.
This is weird. Shareholders representing more than 50% of the capital and votes in Embracer have expressed support for the plan, the company said. Embracer, a Swedish gaming conglomerate who snapped up the rights to Lord of the Rings 2 years ago, has undergone a severe restructuring plan over the past year, which has seen the company shut down and dispose of dozens of game studios and titles and lay off hundreds of staff, resulting in aftershocks that have reverberated throughout the games industry in a report published in February. Okay. So he goes on to say, Middle Earth Enterprise and Friends will be developing immersive, world-class entertainment IPs, including the iconic Lord of the Rings, leveraging in-house AAA capabilities and formidable partnerships. Does that excite you?
Not at all.
Okay, well,
nothing Embracer Group does holds any interest for me at all. No.
Okay, Kiki Walej-Lund, chair of the Embracer Group board, added, "This transformation is an important step in unlocking shareholder value. With this new structure, the three entities will be able to focus on executing their core strategies and leveraging their own strengths, providing more differentiated and distinct equity stories to both existing and new shareholders. After careful evaluation of various strategic alternatives, we strongly believe that this decision will benefit all stakeholders and position us for continued success in the future." Was that word salad?
Yes.
But she didn't use the word synergy.
Yeah. Well, because I think that particular bureaucracism or you know that fad is kind of on its way out. They're on to new what is it? They need to evaluate the lift. The lift. Yeah, exactly.
Because I was just about to say, if I somehow got one of these corporate board, positions, I would have to.
You got to learn the modern corporate lingo,
okay,
right?
Because I was just I would come out and I would give my speech and I would say one word, synergy, drop the mic, I would get applause, get a promotion right there.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just. Okay, Embracer Group splitting in three. Everybody excited? The chat talking about it? Let's see here. No, let's move on. Okay. No one cares. Disney. Your favorite company?
Let's put it this way. When you are trying to reestablish yourself as a leader in the industry, maybe it's not a great idea to embrace a business model that's on its way out and over with. Just saying.
Well, here's what it says, because I kept thinking this was going to be like a TV channel, and maybe that was an article I couldn't find. This is what I found. Okay, the revamped Disney Plus app could soon feature always-on channels. So this is like when you click on your thing, instead of having it be, like you get to select what you want to watch when you want to watch it. It will always be playing. Do you understand?
It sounds a lot like cable to me.
When I click on my Shudder app, there's usually it first comes on. It has an always play feature like a cable channel would, but then you can just get out of it and go into what you want if you don't want to just watch what's currently on, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I don't know why Disney has to then set up separate always on channels.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because their hope is that you will do what you did with cable, click the channel on, plop the kids in front of it, or that's just your go-to channel when the family's coming together and stuff, and you end up watching a bunch of crap you would never choose for yourself if you were choosing from the menu.
Oh, I see.
So this is their way of building up the shows that nobody wants to watch.
Yes.
And this would be true if you click on the channel and you haven't selected anything yet, and that's what's playing. That's how they get watch time for Ahsoka or the High Republic or whatever it is.
They're going to have a Star Wars, in addition to Star Wars and Marvel series, Disneyland channels could feature stations that continue to stream Disney classic animated films or movies from Pixar, the information reports. So you could have a Pixar channel. You could, they could just, show.
And I guarantee you, they're not going to have their whole back catalog there. They're just going to have the stuff they're trying to push that they want you to watch now.
This could be the way they could push it, whereas there's stuff on the streaming all the time that may not show up on demand. So let's say you want to watch Snow White. Well, I'm sorry, but we don't have it on the on-demand portion, but you can click on the Disney Classics channel, and it will be on there Tuesday at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. What do you think?
Right.
Maybe.
Which will give them some watch time for the show before it and the show after it, which is some crap you don't want to watch.
It is also the growing popularity of free ad-supported streaming. There still aren't any details about what the new channels could launch, and Disney declined to comment. However, the rumored move aligns with Disney's goals of keeping viewers glued to its Disney Plus app, which now includes a title for Hulu. It also reflects the growing popularity of free ad-supported streaming TV. Fast, last week's report from Bloomberg revealed that viewers are spending more time watching the Fox-owned Tubi. Who watches Tubi, honestly?
Actually,
That's
it's
a joke.
interesting
I was
because
watching Doctor Who on it last night.
it's interesting because Tubi is now surpassing Disney in market share.
Part of the appeal of fast services that you can now just tune into a random show without having to worry about hanging on to every single word like you would when watching something like Fallout. You know, that maybe they could put Millennium on Tubi.
Sure.
Amazon also houses always-on channels within Prime Video through fast service Freevee.
So, and this is the other thing. It might also become their commercial channel too. You know, it's free. You get commercials. You know,
they're not going to put Pixar movies on, except maybe they might put Turning Red on it. Okay, but they're not
exactly my point. Exactly,
they're not going to put like Toy Story on there. They're going to save that for the subscribers.
Yep.
I don't understand streaming. It feels it was being sold as this new innovative thing. And now I feel like it's regressing just to become another version of what we had before cable. People forget that cable, toward the end, or even like 20 years ago, cable, or I know at least 10 years ago, it had an on-demand function where if you had an HBO subscription and you missed the movie when it aired at 3 p.m., you could go into on-demand and watch it there if you were an HBO subscriber. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Through the cable company. So I don't know.
Yep.
There's going to be a live sports streaming package. They want people to get back into the old habit of flipping the TV on and watching it for hours. Because I think the problem with streaming is you're more selective and you probably spend less time watching when you can do things on demand. Is that right?
I suppose.
Sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, that's Disney Plus. The only problem with always-on shows is that you can't select the episode. Well, that's the point. You got to watch what they give you. Let me explain something to you. When we were growing up, Troy and myself, you might have a VCR if you're lucky, and you could record a show. But you were basically subjected to whatever was on TV. And if you were a fan of any television show, even when it was in syndication, there was this weird habit that there would always be one episode that got repeated more than any other. Do you remember this?
Yep. Absolutely.
For Batman the Animated Series, it was his Silicon Soul. And that one would play over and over again. I would remember yelling at the TV when I would see it after a while. I think I had cousins who were big fans of the Thundercats, and they explained, this is the episode that gets repeated the most. There was always something that would I'm sure Star Trek had its own episode in syndication that got repeated more than any others. It was something, and apparently there was an actual reason for it, which escapes me now. But okay, I don't know. I don't get this. I feel like we're going back. What's the point of streaming when you want it to act exactly like cable did?
And this is why I'm saying it's regressive. People are cutting the cord for a reason. Why would Disney be going back and doing this? It's stupid. But Disney cannot be taught. They can't.
Don't blame him. His Silicon Soul is a good episode, but I bet that it'd be annoying. The episode, well, you know what? You'll watch Batman the Animated Series someday, so I'll leave that one to you when you get to it. She-Hulk in the news.
Oh, this broad again.
She-Hulk star Tatiana Maslany on Marvel fan sexism, Mark Ruffalo, and the trauma of child actors. In defense, though, I think the headline makes it sound worse than it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the reporter was leading the question as opposed to her volunteering it herself. But despite largely positive reviews, which often singled out, I'm just going to read a portion of the article. Despite largely positive reviews, which singled out Maslany's performance, She-Hulk revolved at a time of Marvel fatigue, with audiences complaining about the relentless output of superhero spin-offs from Echo to Ms. Marvel. Of course, it didn't help that those projects were female-led and that Marvel's largely male fan base are generally not the most progressive bunch. How did she handle the inevitable wave of sexist backlash? I think what's exciting, she checks herself, exciting, huh? I think what's fun about it is that series creator Jessica Gao built a story that people were going to troll, built into the story that people are going to troll us. A scene in the third episode, for example, airs fictional social media comments about Maslany's character, such as, "Why does every superhero have to be a woman now?" Sound familiar? When we started to get the same responses that Gao had actually baked into the writing, it felt like part of the fun, Maslany says. I'll say this, that's a lot more diplomatic an answer than I was expecting from the headline.
Yeah.
If you think about it. I mean,
True.
cut Maslany credit. But let me see. The article goes on to say, a second season has not been announced, but chances of the actor returning. This I thought was more interesting about this article. Chances of the actor returning to the franchise may have diminished slightly last summer when she called Disney's Big Boss Bob Iger completely out of touch. The multimillionaire CEO had, during the months-long SAG-AFTRA strike that ground Hollywood to a halt, called the actors' union demands for a fairer wage unrealistic. Maslany admits, in those moments you're so heated up, it's hard to articulate yourself in a way that you want when you're all on the picket line with everybody. There's plenty to be cross about, though. Maslany picks out the example of actors self-taping auditions from their living rooms. More often than not, jobbing actors will learn lines, film numerous takes, and send off dozens of tapes without booking any paid work. She invokes the words of Olivia Colman, who called the process disrespectful. Maslany adds, you send these tapes into the void, you never get responses, you never get any feedback, and you're working, you're filming yourself and having to edit yourself, which is also the stuff that makes you so self-conscious. Okay. So I think she's out, though, because Iger doesn't like her.
I mean, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot when you say that kind of stuff about your boss. I'm just saying.
Obviously, yes. Plus, I think the show was very expensive, and I don't know how well it did. There's that going for it. But I did notice, I have to tell you something, too. There's some punctuation errors in this article that are driving me nuts.
I know that these outlets don't have editors, or their editors don't know what the hell they're doing.
It's called the Chicago Manual of Style, but get yourself a copy of it, please. I had to learn this crap, so do you. Okay, let's move on. Your favorite.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Wizards of the Coast. This is Hasbro again.
Yep.
Okay, Wizards of the Coast president Cynthia Williams resigns.
Did you catch the in the thumbnail where I posted the shot of this Cynthia Williams with the Wicked Witch of the East's feet and Ding Dong above it?
Hold on. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Okay, you're more familiar with the D&D world than I am.
Yes, I am.
What do you think of this person?
Yeah, just little tiny there, Ding Dong.
Has she been really bad for D&D? Is she behind all the nonsense? Or
and here's the thing. I can sum it up for all of you that don't really know who she is and don't really know Wizards of the Coast and D&D. This Cynthia Williams is to Wizards of the Coast what Kathleen Kennedy is to Lucasfilm. And by the same token, she can lay claim to certain things that were successful while trying to deflect on things that happened that are not so good. So, for example, she can claim that, a D&D 5.0 is doing really, really well and has had a very good year. But she's going to obfuscate all of the OGL licensing dust up and sending the Pinkertons to a YouTuber's house for having bought something that they shouldn't have sold him, but they did. Not his fault.
I'm imagining, of course, this is the Pinkertons. I'm imagining like a SWAT team coming in and crashing through the windows. After this guy opens up his box, says, "Oh wow, I didn't know this magic card was out yet." And looking at the card quizzically, and then suddenly a SWAT team busts through and the door gets down on the floor.
It's not very far. Yeah, it's not very far from that.
Okay, so according to a filing with the SEC on April 15th, the current president of Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro Gaming will be stepping down at the end of this month. Cynthia Williams held the position for 2 years. The previous holder of the position, Chris Cox, is currently CEO of Hasbro. Independent gaming news outlet Rascal broke the story earlier this morning on X, the site formerly known as I know it's Twitter at this point. Come on. According to Hasbro, the company does not have a successor for the position lined up. The search is on for her replacement. Williams came to the company from Microsoft. Oh, that's unfortunate. She
Yep.
was general manager.
That tells you something too, doesn't it?
I've heard about Microsoft management. It's kind of notorious.
Mm-hmm.
She was general manager and vice president gaming ecosystem commercial team for their Xbox division. Oh, okay. Her selection led many to believe Wizards of the Coast was looking to expand into the digital space. Shortly after taking the position, Wizards of the Coast acquired D&D Beyond and has since made it central to their marketing strategy. The company saw some of its highest moments within the 2 years of her tenure. Wizards of the Coast earnings were a bright spot during the tumultuous few years for parent company Hasbro. The company capitalized on the popularity of Dungeons & Dragons to release the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves film, as well as its own fast channel, D&D Adventures. Do you know about this?
Yes.
Is this supposed to be a competitor with Critical Role?
It's exactly what it is. And that was a big part of what a lot of fans accuse the Wizards of the Coast of doing with their whole open game licensing, trying to close up any company that's not directly them from profiting from, doing what, basically what Critical Role does and stuff. And it's like, well, sorry, man. It is what it is. They're doing it legally. Too bad.
There were also moves that cost the company goodwill and potentially affected sales. The handling of D&D's OGL damaged relationships with third-party publishers and caused many fans to seek out new games to play and support. The company also employed Pinkertons to reclaim accidental leaked Magic the Gathering product in reaction deemed too harsh by fans of the game. Dungeons & Dragons is the most popular it has ever been. The film was well received by fans and looks to be a cult classic in the making. That means it didn't do well in the box office when you say that. Even more new fans came to the game from the massive breakout hit Baldur's Gate 3. That was a success, despite my own personal reservations about the game. We talked about that. A computer game adaptation of D&D. Okay, critical favorite, massive financial success, and popular with fans of bears. Okay, moving on. While the company celebrates Dungeons & Dragons' 50th anniversary, the game stands at a crossroads. The new versions of Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, and Dungeon Master Guides need to thread the needle between being welcoming to new fans of the game while also offering new content that fans already invested in Dungeons & Dragons will want to purchase. Change too much and the fans will be upset over deciding which rules to use for their games. Change too little and old fans won't see. Need to spend money on books that work the same way as their current ones do. Interesting. Williams' last day as president is April 26, 2024. A spokesperson for Wizard of the Coast had this to say when Rascal News reached out for comment. We're excited for Cynthia to take the next step in her career and grateful for the contribution she has made in her more than 2 years at Wizards and Hasbro. We wish her the absolute best in her endeavor. We have started the search for the next president of Wizards of the Coast and hope to have a successor. Hope to have a successor in place soon. So, what's your thoughts on this? She get fired?
She was encouraged to leave, I believe.
Okay. All I know about Baldur's Gate 3, well, the game was well received. I think the team that made it got angry over something, and they're done. They left. They're not going to work on another one. So, I don't know how you do a sequel to it now. I guess there's the name recognition, but I don't know. I hear that the reason Halo games have been released for so long is that Microsoft keeps shooting down ideas. I don't understand how the Xbox division works these days, Mr. Matchstick. It's I think that there's probably been, to use the term civil war, I think there might have been a civil war in the games division between people that really want to push this subscription service model. I don't know. Anyway, though, so are you excited? You think Wizards will get fixed? I heard the new D&D rules will no longer allowed for half orcs or half elves.
I think that the fans have moved on, just like everything else. So no, there is no saving anything. I just appreciate seeing people that should not be in these positions losing their jobs.
Yes. All right. David Mamet.
Becoming a favorite of mine.
Yes, David Mamet calls Hollywood's diversity efforts fascist totalitarianism. Yikes.
He's
The
not
views
wrong.
of David Mamet do not necessarily reflect the views of myself or Pa Pa Pacelli here, right?
But they probably do.
Anyway, legendary Hollywood screenwriter David Mamet is no fan of the entertainment industry's efforts to drive greater diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, in its ranks. DEI is garbage, Mamet told Los Angeles Times Festival of Books on Sunday during a session with Matt Brennan. Mamet, who was on hand to talk about his memoir Everywhere and Oink Oink, an embittered, dyspeptic, and accurate report of 40 years in Hollywood. That sounds like an interesting book. Added the industry's DEI efforts amounted to fascist totalitarianism, according to an account in the Times. The playwright and director who worked in Hollywood since the 1980s and is known for his trademark rapid-fire script dialogue did not shy away from criticism during an informal conversation at USC's Newman Recital Hall. There's no room for individual initiative, Mamet said, of a film industry having experienced growth, maturity, decay, and death, especially in the wake of recent Hollywood writers' strikes. There will be less work, he speculated, but the scripts will be better, Mamet said, and he rejected that his children, including Josiah Mamet, who starred in Girls, ever got work because of their associations with Glenn Ross stage play scribe. Anyway, okay. That's neither here nor there. But what do you think? You think it's in its death spiral? Growth,
Yes,
maturity,
I
decay,
do.
and death. Or are we in decay right now?
I do think that if things don't change, people are going elsewhere for their entertainment. They are finding alternate,
They're watching old stuff too.
and they're going to other countries and independent stuff, and yeah. I think that's what's happening, and I think Hollywood realizes. I think it hit the mainstream. It wasn't just a bunch of right wingers, grousing about it when Ricky Gervais came out at the Golden Globes, and said you people are in no position to lecture anyone about anything. He's absolutely right, and it pretty much sent the message to Hollywood. Yeah, everyone's moving on. Nobody cares what you think anymore.
I'll wait and see. Every time we think we're watching the end of these companies, they keep going somehow. I don't know. We'll see. I'm curious to see how this summer is going to go.
Yeah.
Will this revitalize the movie-going experience? What are the big movies? I guess we have Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't know.
Which I think a lot of people are pointing out, even if it does really, really well, there's no way this is saving Marvel.
No, I'm not. I'm not even trying to look at it as an MCU movie. I'm trying to look at it as like the last gasp of
the 20th Century Fox X-Men films.
X-Men universe, yeah. Which which were always hit or miss, but I did enjoy most of them. Especially Deadpool 2, and then you had X-Men Apocalypse. Remember that one? With Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse.
Yeah, they were all very mixed bag. But Matanui and Mr. Matchstick both make great points. Matanui says, I'll wait and see. Every time we think we're watching the end of these companies, they keep going somehow. But Mr. Matchstick counters, Rome wasn't built in a day, and it didn't die in a day either. That's absolutely true. We have temporal nearsightedness. No depth perception, temporally speaking, when we look back at things. The Roman Empire didn't, suddenly just end. It took generations. And where the line ends, you could talk about the Byzantine Empire. You could even talk about, dare we say it, the Third Reich. When did Rome really end? Like, when did the dinosaurs die? We didn't just get hit by an asteroid and suddenly, boom, they were all dead. It took a long time for them all to die off. Same thing's happening to Hollywood right now.
So to use an entertainment analogy, maybe opera. How opera was at one point the biggest thing ever, right?
Yeah,
People would go to
exactly.
The opera. But then,
and technically, it's not dead. People still do operas, still go to see them. It's just not popular anymore. Look, there was a time before Henry Ford where cars didn't exist. Everyone got around on horses or they walked, right? And the concern was, if people keep moving into the city and population keeps growing, where are we going to get all the horses? And what are we going to do with all the horse shit? And then, the car comes along, and literally within a decade, you don't see horses on the street anymore. They can't have them on the street because you have to have you can't really have cars and horses coexisting on the same roads anymore. That doesn't mean horses aren't still being used, especially in rural areas.
Yeah.
But the time for horses is over, and it took a while for it to happen.
Did you see the movie Seabiscuit?
I did not.
It goes into that. Because there are three main characters. There's Tobey Maguire, who's the jockey. Then there's Jeff Bridges, who's the man who owns Chrysler. And then there's the horse trainer, the one that takes care of the horses. And it starts out where that was his main career, was taking care of horses, not for racing, just for in general use.
Right.
And then he sees his first automobile ride by. And then you see the Jeff Bridges character as he rises to prominence by first starting a bike repair shop. Then he fixes his first car and then figures out, I need to go into automobiles. And suddenly I think he makes some comment about, I don't know anyone who would take a horse over one of these cars at this point or something. And that was the point in the movie where there's now been a shift in American culture where people are now moving over to the automobile.
Right.
As opposed to the car. And it does it in a very way. And you kind of feel bad, I think. Who played the horse trainer? Like, his career got sidelined because he was a guy that dealt with horses. So his basic work was he started working with horse racing. Taking care of horses there. Do you understand? But it's a good movie. It's a classic. Stellar cast in that. But in the Netherlands, they completely redesigned the roads. More people can safely walk around them without worrying about getting hit. Hey, good for them. I have to tell you, in the United States,
yep,
go to New Orleans sometime and try driving around New Orleans. They still got ancient streets there in some places. It's like,
that's true.
Chris Cooper, that's right. That's who I was thinking of. I couldn't think of the actor's name. Chris Cooper was the trainer. He was the guy, the horse wrangler. Yeah. And great movie, Seabiscuit. I highly recommend it to you. That's right. If ever on a Monday you want to do a horse double feature, you could do Seabiscuit and then Secretariat.
I'd want to fit Black Beauty in there somewhere.
Well, then maybe skip Secretariat and do Black Beauty.
Yeah.
But wasn't there a Seabiscuit movie with Shirley Temple in it?
Possibly.
Which made no sense because she's not in the original story. I mean, I don't know how accurate this movie was. I think it was based on the nonfiction Seabiscuit book that came out. That was very popular. It was like a sports true story book, but yeah, Chris Cooper was in that. Let's move on, though. We're not done with Hollywood. Jerry Seinfeld says the movie business is over. Film doesn't occupy the pinnacle in the cultural hierarchy anymore. Disorientation has replaced it. Wow.
So this is what I'm getting at, and this is, again, we're not talking, some right winger saying this. This is a classical liberal.
It's the guy that who has worked in show business all his life. Let's get into this, though. Jerry Seinfeld is finally a movie director with the upcoming premiere of his feature debut, Unfrosted, backed by Netflix. The star-studded comedy is a fictional account of how the creation of Pop-Tarts toaster pastries. In a new interview with GQ magazine, Seinfeld reflected on his experience jumping into movie making for the first time so late in his career. It was totally new to me. I thought I had done some cool stuff, but it was never like the way these people work, Seinfeld said. They are so dead serious. They don't have any idea that the movie business is over. They have no idea. So it's interesting because in some ways he's coming at this from an outsider.
Yeah.
Because he did work in television for a long time. But, yeah, okay. Asked to elaborate on a more serious note, Seinfeld continued, film doesn't occupy the pinnacle in the social, cultural hierarchy that it did for most of our lives. When a movie came out, if it was good, we all went to see it. We all discussed it. We quoted lines and scenes we liked. Now we're walking through a fire hose of water just trying to see. So what, if anything, has replaced film? Depression, malaise, I would say confusion, disorientation replaced the movie business, he answered. Everyone I know in show business every day is going, what's going on? How do you do this? What are we supposed to do now? I've done enough stuff that I have my own thing, which is more valuable than it's ever been, Seinfeld noted about his career outside the more confused film industry. Stand-up is like you're a cabinet maker, and everybody needs a guy who's good with wood. There's trees everywhere, but to make a nice table, it's not so easy. So the metaphor is that you have to have good craft and craftsmanship. You're kind of impervious to the winds of the industry. Audiences are now flocking to stand up because it's something you can't fake, he added. It's like platform diving. You could say you're a platform diver, but in 2 seconds we can see if you are or you aren't. That's what people like about stand-up. They can trust it. Everything else is fake. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So is there now becoming a resurgence in stand-up comedy?
There's
not on college campuses. I know they don't.
There's becoming a resurgence in interest. I think a lot of people are. I mean, ask Christy Mayer. A lot of people are going to see her in person. A lot of the comedians on the circuit are saying that people are coming to see them. And if they get one heckler that starts, getting pissed off about woke stuff, they'll get booed down by the other people in the audience. Samuel Proctor kind of brings up a point that I was alluding to earlier. He said social media and YouTube might be close to being the replacement for what we're used to with these movies, and that's what I'm saying. That's the independence, right? And well, I would say that you're not seeing movies being replaced with like YouTube, but definitely like the talk show. What this basically is, this is like what would have been a chat show on TV, and Friday night last call is definitely like that kind of a chat show. And we're kind of taking that role away from television. I think the movies still are the province of the independent filmmakers. Look at what Tom Conkle is doing, and many others.
Island in the Stars,
Island in the Stars, and Trouble Is My Business, and so forth. Some of that stuff is available out there on things like Tubi and even YouTube, but it's the independent companies that are putting out these films. But yeah, I think this is. Look, cream rises to the top, and people will go where the entertainment is, and it has not been in Hollywood.
And like I said, I do really like your Last Call show on Fridays. I think maybe you need a new co-host, though, because he's dead weight.
I like my co-host, but, if he abandons me, I always got the better looking one sitting across from me.
That's true. Actually, I'll say this: you and Ned are good on streams. In fact, you'll be on her own stream, Thursday Things, which you can also catch on Netter's Network.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, though. I will say this: one of the reasons why you're all running around with your heads cut off is because Seinfeld understood this. You guys need to go back to making comedies.
Yeah,
Hollywood, make comedies. And stop being afraid of making comedies and good comedies. And here's the thing about comedies, what I noticed, especially when we're watching stuff like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and a lot of those John Hughes comedies, he understood the average American.
Yeah.
What the average American is going through, things like Uncle Buck and things like that. And out in Hollywood, they got too afraid of offending everybody. So they kind of see with comedies. Comedies were low cost.
Yep.
And they would make a lot of money. They were like horror movies in that way. In fact, I would argue horror movies are not in a bad spot right now because, again, they still cost little to make, and they usually make their money back. So I think the horror people I'm not saying I like every horror movie that comes out, but I don't think that model has changed dramatically. I mean, maybe I'm wrong if someone wants to argue with me in the chat, but
Yeah.
I think horror hasn't changed all that much over the years either. But social media and YouTube might be close to being replacement. Okay, but yeah. Um, video games are well becoming bigger. Video games are so expensive right now. Double A indie old games. Checking stuff on sale. Yes. Oh, is there any deal? I don't know that site. I used to go to cheapassgamer.com. Do you like that title for a website?
I mean, I like that it sure seems to say exactly what it is.
That's how you'd find out about deals. Of course, those can be annoying because it's like, hey guys, I just noticed on Walmart.com or in the store like they have this game for $20, and I'm like, it was posted like 3 hours ago. I might have found that out on my own, but since you posted it, all the other guys went and snatched them all up before I had a chance.
Right.
That's the one problem with the internet. I don't know though. I think they are like that. I mean, I'm sorry, not to bring up the Mummy again, but when the Mummy came out, let's just say, let's make an adventure movie that's a remake of the original '30s Mummy, and just have it be fun, have some scares, but not too scary. That 1999 Mummy movie was basically Universal Studios' template for how to bring back their classic monster movies. Right there, everything was right. It had the right tone. It had enough of a sense of humor, but also had kind of a creep factor to it without going into R-rated territory. Do you understand?
Exactly.
They completely knew how to do that, and I was not such a fan of the sequels of that movie. And Van Helsing, you can catch me on Wolf. I think was it Wolf 10 Media's channel one night when we were doing the rewatch of that. There were some nice looking brides in that movie, Dracula brides in that movie, but I don't know.
You're not wrong.
I don't know what's going on with Hollywood either, though, but I can tell you, this summer, do I want to drag my butt out to the theater? There was a movie I dragged my butt out to the theater a couple summers ago, and that was Maverick. Maverick got it. You need more movies like that. So, I don't know. Watching my for October. Van Helsing was also fun. Some people like Van Helsing. It didn't do it for me. But I did want to say with games too. I've talked about a lot of problems with the games industry now, but you forget though you have lots of indie titles coming out, and the indie titles run the gamut. So yeah, you can find stuff I'll never touch with a 10-foot pole, but then stuff I would really like to buy, like Blasphemous. I picked those games up. I don't know though. So let's move on.
Yeah, get comfortable, folks. This is where Troy starts to rant.
I'll be honest with you, I kept hearing about this and I was avoiding it. What kills me about this guy is that if he had kept his mouth shut, I could have seen him becoming a real star, and we need stars, because relying on franchises all the time for your movies is not. And just this guy keeps running his mouth.
Yep.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Age Mover, speaking of the Mummy, my brother and I saw it on the big screen. Never got tired of it. Yes, I saw it on the big screen today, Chris P. You must have done. You must have been doing the revival that I did. They must have had it on a couple nights. Yeah. Okay. So let's see here, though. Alan Ritchson labels James Bond misogynistic and predictable. Alan Ritchson has branded the James Bond franchise misogynistic and predictable. The 41-year-old actor insisted he has no desire to step into the shoes of the suave spy because he already has his fill of action in playing Jack Reacher in the Prime Video program Reacher, which he finds far more fresh and exciting than the iconic movie series. Speaking with Entertainment Weekly, he said, "It's funny. I kind of feel like Reacher is the American James Bond. And I've never had more fun playing a character. I love those larger-than-life, over-the-top action thrillers and spy movies, and the heists that are smart and ahead of the audience. That's really great. But I feel like Bond, to me personally, people are going to hate me for saying this. I love Bond, but I feel it's all a little misogynistic and predictable at this point." I'm going to pause right here.
Mm-hmm.
The word misogynist means hatred of women. That's what that means. It doesn't mean sexist. That's a different thing.
Right.
As Bond acted sexist at times in the movies and the books, sure. And part of me also has made an argument that all men have had sexist thoughts, and so women have also probably had sexist thoughts toward men in their lives too.
It's kind of based
Okay,
on millions of years of evolution.
yes. So it happens both ways. Alan explained that he didn't particularly like the British spy films because the character is too aware of his qualities. He said, Reacher to me is like the American Bomb, and I think it's a cool way to go about doing it where it's a little...
Says somebody who's
less
lacking
purposely
self-awareness.
He's not in on how slick he is. That's what he says about Reacher. Are you sure about that? Because I'm not getting that impression from this series I've been watching. I think Reacher knows that he can do damage to people and goes after them and doesn't think twice about it. He doesn't strike me as a guy he doesn't strike me as someone who has areas of self-doubt. I don't get that from this character from the series I've seen at all. In fact, there was a joke in one episode where one of his friends is looking at this girl's gaming collection and says, I don't get into gaming. Like he said, I don't play video games, Reacher says. And she says, I would have figured you for a first-person shooter guy. And then he says, I am a first-person shooter, which I thought was a funny line. I'll admit that. And and I think that's a self-awareness. So I don't know where he's getting this. I don't feel like we have characters these days that are in on the joke. Either they know they're funny, they know they're smart, and they know that they're very cool or capable. I feel like it reduces the stakes of stories, and we've seen too many movies. We're too savvy as an audience to be entertained by that. The actor then revealed he wanted to see more vulnerable and humanized characters in cinema rather than flawless heroes. All right, so I don't know what he's getting at. I can tell you, even from reading the books, Bond is no woman hater, okay?
Yeah. So what he's basically done as an upcoming actor is made sure that he will never have an opportunity to play James Bond. It'll never be offered to him. A lot of people now are going to start looking at him a little bit cockeyed and saying, do I want to even invest in this guy if he's going to shoot? Because look, we're starting to go into the post DEI era, where people are, the companies are starting to want to focus again on making profit and not on the messaging so much. Most companies are going to start moving away from that. If you have any sort of business acumen, you start looking ahead in the curve and going, how do I pivot into that curve? But no, he's doubling down and going back the way he came. And it's like, okay, well, if you want to make sure your career ends here, good for you.
Let's go to the next article. We're not done yet with...
No, we're not. Speaking about doubling down, that was actually a good bumper there. And welcome, Sashi. Good to see you.
Reacher star doubles down on claims cops get away with murder, touts own bravery for speaking out. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's real brave to end your career. I mean, I guess.
No, it's real brave to lose your own life in trying to uphold the law, which has been happening more and more to cops in New York City right now.
True.
Anyway, Richson, who also stars in the film The Ministry of Ungenderly Warfare, ripped the National Fraternal Order of Police on Instagram Tuesday for its emotionally immature response to his charged comments in a Hollywood Reporter interview. During the interview published earlier this month, Richson was asked about an Instagram photo of him in 2020 that depicted the actor wearing a t-shirt that read, "Arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor." The action star told the outlet that a recently resurfaced photo represented his perspective that police brutality is common in America. Cops get away with murder all the time, and the fact that we can't really hold them accountable for their improprieties is disturbing to me. We should completely reform the way we do it, he declared, adding, I mean, you shouldn't have to spend more time getting an education as a hairstylist than as a cop who's armed with a deadly weapon. For starters, I want to interrupt this. Who's saying they're not being held accountable if there's a wrongful death?
Exactly.
I think, okay. During the same interview, Richson also trashed Christian supporters of former President Trump, stating that Trump is a... can I say this word? I'm not monetized, am I? I don't care.
No, you're not monetized.
Okay, Trump is a rapist and a con man, and yet the entire Christian church seems to treat him like he's their poster child, and it's unreal. I don't understand it. Okay. That's all I got from that. Yeah, so he's doubling down. I don't know. I'm surprised that they're still bringing up the cop hatred these years later.
Well, again, this is again somebody who is completely out of touch, who you know, has isn't reading the room. Thinks he's virtue signaling when the vast majority of people are going, no. No, I actually live in the areas where these crimes are happening, and no, this, yeah. And look, I'm going to say something else. A lot of people have come out trying to defend this guy. Well, he's come out as a Christian, and that's a very brave thing to do in Hollywood. So Christians have to, defend him. And I'm like, no. In fact, as a Christian, you hold him to a Christian standard.
Yeah.
And this is not behaving like a Christian.
Yeah. I'd say shut his mouth, but I'm pretty sure he's talking out his ass. Okay.
Good point.
Common in America. Yeah, someone made a point on Friday about police in France, what they'll do to you over there.
Yeah.
You don't have it on Friday stream, but look at this. Well, I used to like his acting, not anymore. Well, I'll say this: he was good on Reacher, in the title role. I'm just over this. This feels to me like an attack on the audience for nothing, really.
Well, and the fact is, he's not in anything that's so good.
No.
Look, the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, I was like, I'm going to keep watching The Mandalorian because I like it, and I can overlook Pedro Pascal. There came a point where it was no longer good enough to overcome, anything else for me, and I walked away from it.
Yeah.
And the fact is, everybody keeps telling me, oh, this Reacher, it's really good, it's really good. Well, I am not inclined to care. I'm not going to bother with it now.
I mean, I don't hear John Krasinski running his mouth, and he was
right.
Right. Please don't.
I think he's more intelligent.
Granted, he's stated that he's a Democrat. He votes for Democrats, but I don't think he's at least as in your face.
But I don't think I'm the only one that has that opinion. Let's go ahead on to the next article. That's a great pivot point.
Yeah, let's go over to this. This was the movie that came out this weekend. Henry Cavill can't catch a break.
Right. Yeah, he yeah. It's true.
He's like the male equivalent of Gina Carano, someone who should have had a big career and it's slipping away from him like hers did. Exactly. I think he's had like a silent cancellation myself too. Not overt, but anyway. The weekend at the box office was disappointingly slow, adding to ongoing concerns about Hollywood's declining performance this year. According to ComScore, year-to-date ticket sales have dropped by almost 20% compared to the previous year. Guy Ritchie's latest film, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, made a lackluster debut, landing in 4th place with earnings of barely $9 million from 2,845 theaters, despite a reported production cost of $60 million. And featuring stars like Henry Cavill and Alan Ritchson, the film struggled to attract a large audience. Ritchie, known for hits like Aladdin and the Sherlock Holmes series, has faced challenges with recent releases such as Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre, and The Covenant. To be fair, I did enjoy Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was funny. Aubrey Plaza's in that along with Jason Statham. But despite its low box office performance, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare received positive feedback from few audience members who showed up earning it an A- cinema score. The film's promotions were likely overshadowed by controversial remarks made by Alan Ritchson, who stars in the TV series Reacher. Ritchson recently criticized Christians who support former President Trump, who he called a rapist, and made inflammatory comments about law enforcement, saying they get away with murder all the time. Yes.
Let me say this to all the we gotta defend Christians crowd out there. What happened to that whole thing about not bearing false witness against your neighbor? Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, there are these things called courts.
Yeah.
And evidence.
And there was no evidence.
Yes.
There was no evidence. Despite the fact that a jury decided to award money to a nutcase, there was no actual evidence. He was never found criminally guilty of anything. People need to learn the difference between criminal law and civil law. Civil law is, let's get 12 people to agree to give money from one rich person to one crazy person.
You know what he could have been talking about for the past couple weeks? He could have been talking about how great the movie he was in.
Yeah, imagine that.
And even if he brought up that thing with Breonna Taylor, said he was very upset that this poor person was shot down. That's why he wore the shirt. He didn't have to use that to pivot into just going after cops in general.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He could have done that. He could have done a lot of things. I don't know where agents are. Do agents exist anymore? Do they talk to their clients and tell them, knock it off?
Yeah.
Because this is up there with the weird girl, the weird, you know, the Snow White actress, like Rachel Zegler.
Weird. Yeah, exactly.
This is up there with that, maybe worse actually. And I just don't understand this. You're setting fire to your career. Like, this movie actually needed to be a hit for him.
Right.
If this movie was a hit, he gets a couple more. He could be a movie star. I don't know where he's going to be now because he pissed off, I think, a core portion of his audience.
Yeah.
So I'm going to recommend, if you can, check out The Beekeeper. That's a Jason Statham movie. And Jason Statham, I think, largely keeps his mouth shut. Knock on wood. Please don't say anything recently. Have you heard of The Beekeeper with Jason Statham?
I have heard of it. I honestly don't know what it's about. I know that people that I really enjoy have done reviews of it. I just have not gotten around to it yet.
I like the setup. I think you'll enjoy it.
I'm sure I probably will.
I like the setup. I like the bad thing that happens to this old lady who was played by Felicia Rashad.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about from the Cosby Show? Remember?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she's in it. And it's basically... I don't want to say it's revenge because I think The Beekeeper is not about revenge. I think he's about just justice and cutting out bad things in our society. It's not about... Kind of reminded me of a John Wick style movie, though. You might like it better than John Wick. I don't know. Okay, so... I recommend.
Well, honestly, I've only seen the first John Wick film so far, but
yeah.
I like that. So, you know,
I think you should check out The Beekeeper and maybe skip this movie. I don't know. You have disappointed me. That's what I'm going to say to Alan Ritchson.
It's
not even the fact that people have political opinions that are different than mine. We used to be able to have that and not tear each other apart.
See, that's the difference. It's one thing to share your opinion. It's another thing to demonize people that don't share your opinion.
Also,
basically, he's sent me the message, I don't want your business. Go away. So I am. That's basically what it comes down to.
It's a spoiler, but okay, never mind.
And something tells me that's not literal.
Not literal, but you'll see when you see it.
Okay, I'll have to check it out then.
Oh.
So speaking,
I don't want to be that on the nose, but
as long as we're on the topic of the law and the difference between civil and criminal and so forth, if you want to use that as your pivot point there.
Look at this handsome man. Okay, I'm being mean. I remember when this first broke out. I think I flipped on Michael Savage when we were still on the radio, and he had some caller. And why was he having because Michael Savage compared? Why is he having these beautiful women look at him while he's showering? And somebody went, you know what it is? It's like Beauty and the Beast, and he's the Beast, and needs her to look at the Beast or something. And I'm like,
Well, here's what I have said about this.
The Me Too era, which now has all the young men and women at each other's throats now in our society.
I was just going to say, this is the same thing that I'm, this is another one of those, what you believe, what you've heard, and what can be proven.
Let's bring this up. Yes, I figure you're going to have some thoughts on this.
Yes, I am.
Bring this up. All right, so let's go into Harvey Weinstein's 2020 conviction overturned by New York Appeals Court. What? Harvey Weinstein's 2020 rape conviction has been overturned by the New York Court of Appeals on Thursday. The court found in a 4-3 ruling that the judge in Weinstein's trial, a landmark moment in the Me Too movement at the 2017 allegations against him started, had shown prejudice by allowing women to testify about allegations that were not part of the case.
Yep, sound familiar? Do we know any other cases where that kind of thing is happening?
Yes,
just saying.
Yes, And at oral argument in February, Adala maintained that Justice James Burke had stacked the deck against Weinstein by allowing three women, Dawn Dunning, Tarali Wolf, and Lauren Young, to testify against him. Each of the women told the jury that Weinstein had sexually assaulted them after they showed up for what they thought would be a business meeting. The so-called Molyneux witnesses were called to show that Weinstein's assaults had a common pattern and that he was not confused about whether or not the victims consented. Weinstein's defense argued that the effect of testimony, however, was to attack his character without shedding any light on the allegations for what he was actually charged. So I guess the point is that he was not being charged with the assault of these particular women in this
exactly trial. And there are legal and case law and constitutional problems with trying a case that way. This may seem like a procedural thing, but look, and it definitely sounds like defending the bad guy. But here's the thing: if you're going after a bad guy, there's a great line. Robert De Niro playing Al Capone delivers this line in the movie Untouchables. He says, "If you've got a problem with me, you come talk to me. You say I stole from you, you come and say to me you stole. You don't talk to me about spitting on the sidewalk over there." And that is, there's no indication that Al Capone actually said that, but it's a great theatrical way of getting across the idea of you're going after someone for racketeering and murder and conspiracy, and you go after him for tax evasion. Tax evasion, which is theft, by the way. Just going to go on record saying that. The opinions of Troy Pacelli do not necessarily reflect those of Geeky Geezers and Agent Boomer. Just saying. Yes. But be that as it may.
We love the IRS here, just so you know. This is, I don't know what this man is talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he loves all the three-letter agencies, doesn't he?
Of course I do. They're all aces.
And if the ATF comes around, hide your dogs. Just saying. But and this is the thing. If you're on trial for something, bring evidence about that. Don't say he's a bad guy who has done dirty business and he lies and so on and so forth. Where is your proof that any of this has any relevance to this case? That stuff is usually kept out, but it becomes very clear that the judge, by allowing this stuff, has something of a bias, which leads to, hey, we think this is unfair, we deserve a retrial.
So this would be in the courtroom drama where they bring these three women in, and the defense would say, objection, relevance. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
In this case, and then it says,
the problem is when you have a
judge. This is an activist.
When you have a jury, yeah. They hear that. Regardless of, now you've got to pretend you didn't hear that. Now you've just spoiled the jury, and you could end up with a mistrial because
couldn't they have gotten him based on what they had? Because we know what this man is. I'm just saying, why wasn't the case strong enough?
If he is guilty,
yes,
you find the evidence, present it, and convict him.
So they were worried.
If you cannot do that, then you fail. He is not guilty, and you're done.
So
that's what it comes down to.
So there's going to be a retrial. So I guess we'll be following that.
Now, let's make it very clear what we're talking about here. Number one, this is not all the charges that he was brought up on. Number two, this is just New York. He's still got the case in California,
yep.
Which California's even worse on this kind of stuff. The fact, and he's in this is actually a good picture of him. He is in very, very poor health. He's not in prison right now. He's in the hospital.
Yeah.
And if he recovers in the hospital, he'll be going back to prison. And chances are he is going to spend the rest of his life in prison,
right,
regardless of whether he was actually guilty of any of this stuff. That is kind of how lawfare works. The process is the punishment.
Yeah, but I figured you would like this story because it goes into what you were saying the other week. That's why I looked at it.
Yeah, and this is the same thing I was saying about O.J. Simpson. I'm sorry, everyone who believes he did it, there's no proof. The proof just isn't there, and in fact, there is enough circumstantial evidence to imply that the cop was dirty, dropped the evidence himself. I mean, look, okay. I go and I go to where my ex-wife lives. I don't know if she's actually there right now. I have no reason to believe she's actually going to come out of her house, but I'm going to wait till she comes out of her house, come up behind her, give her a Colombian necktie, right? Not get any blood on me, maybe just a little bit on my gloves, right? Spray it all over the floor. Don't actually step in it, so I never actually get it on my shoes, right? Go after Ron Coleman, who I have no reason to believe is there. Get into a long, drawn-out fight with him. Sustain no injuries, except a little bitty cut on my hand. Remember, I'm wearing a glove, but somehow I get a little cut on my hand through the glove, okay? And that starts bleeding. And after I take care of him, then I'm going to walk around a bit, but as I walk around bleeding from this wound, I stop every few steps to let a drop drip. Because if any of you have ever watched anything forensic, you know that if you're walking and bleeding, there's a spatter pattern. The drip shows that it's going in a direction. You can figure out how quickly someone was walking based on that. So these drips are dripping as if someone stopped and dropped it. Little drops of his blood. And then we're going to go and we're going to get in the car. We're not going to get any blood anywhere in the car, but we're going to smear some on the dashboard in front of me, because that's what you do. Oh, and I'm going to drop my glove here so it can be found later. I don't need that now, but I'm going to walk around like Michael Jackson with one glove for a little while. I'm going to walk to the back of the property where I know somebody is staying in that guest house, knock on the wall, drop my glove here so it can be found, and climb over that wall there. Are you getting what I'm saying?
I'm getting what you're saying.
This is the story that the investigators put out.
Okay.
Right?
But anyways, that's all said and done, and
But I'm just saying here, same thing. We have a bunch of women, and I said this at the time. I'm not saying he's not a scumbag. He absolutely is.
Okay.
I said it at the time, though. If you felt violated by this guy, you feel you were harassed, you feel whatever, you should have made that argument then. You had nothing to say then, but you do now?
Asia Argento hates the man. I know that much, but
but you took the roles. You worked with him.
Let's move on to another comment. Okay, all I remember is Bill Burr saying masturbating vigorously. Whoa, okay.
Yeah, that's pretty out of context, but yeah.
This is not a kid-friendly stream tonight.
Well, and if you want to get into this, the other thing
we have the whole Julia Ormond thing going on too, which I talked about the other week.
This is relevant to the case. We're also talking about a man who, at the time that these events were meant to have taken place, he had issues in the plumbing department where he had to take
Blue pill.
Extreme measures in order to rise to attention. So keep that in mind. It's not something you could just on a whim, just go, hey, I'm going to do this now, Just saying.
All right, so there we go. Weinstein's back in the news. Oh, wait, that's the book thing. We're not doing that tonight. We might be doing that on Friday, though.
Yeah, I think we are. We'll be... well, you know what? As long as you have the article up, let's at least tell them what we're going to be talking about on Friday.
Yes,
so no one's buying books anymore. Everyone is learning about the publishing industry from Penguin versus the Department of Justice.
Yes.
So I'm going to be talking a little bit about another three-letter agency, so expect a little bit of a rant there, but there'll be some upsides too on Friday. We'll talk about some of the books we've read
recently. We're going to talk about it because
and
it's interesting. I might mention something from a blog I found online, But we do have a spare story tonight, though. It was a late-breaking one. I'm going to go find it.
Yep, I'm going to drop it here too.
Thank you. And
This is the Paramount CEO. Forget the guy's name. I'm busy posting it right here.
Like
Bob Backish.
You like my rotting books?
Yes, exactly.
I love it when we get a big thing of donations. Whoa! I'm checking my MeWe. I'm seeing something in there.
I just thought that would make your night. Paramount CEO Bob Backish could be out as soon as Monday as Skydance merger talks continue.
Yes.
This is a little bit of a follow-up to the Paramount Skydance news that we were bringing you last week.
Can I get that picture poster size? I'm sorry. Wait a minute. No, never mind. Move on,
do your own Google search, man.
I don't want to see this guy. This is
no
kidding.
Opposite.
This is like the opposite of the picture you just showed me. There's a reason they're called the fairer sex, and here we are with
not so
man,
fair.
I'd probably be terrified if I worked for him. Okay, Paramount Global's board is preparing to fire Chief Executive Officer Bob Backish as soon as Monday morning, according to people familiar with the matter. Paramount Global reports its quarterly earnings Monday. Backlash won't be on the call. The people said, "What does that mean? How bad are the quarterly earnings if they've kicked him out before?"
Exactly my thought too. That's exactly what I was thinking when I saw this.
The board is expected to lean on company division heads in lieu of a CEO while it negotiates a possible merger with Skydance Media. I'm sorry, you need to have Skydance Media running your studio because they're the only ones making you any money.
Yep.
Period. Paramount Global has set up a special committee to explore the deal. The companies are in exclusive talks to pursue a deal until May 3rd, though that window could be extended. Backish has lost the trust of Paramount Global controlling shareholder Sherry Redstone, according to people familiar with her thinking. Redstone wanted to make a move to oust Backish before Paramount Global's carriage negotiation with Charter Communications, which is pitiful for setting a value for the company in its merger talks with Skydance, the people said. A spokesperson for Paramount Global declined to comment. Paramount and Skydance have been making headway on a final deal under which Backish would leave Paramount. CNBC reported Thursday Skydance intends to name CEO David Ellison to helm Paramount, according to people familiar with the matter. In private, Backish has dissented against the merger, claiming that it could dilute common shareholders, according to people familiar with the matter. Under the deal's terms, almost 50% of the merged company would be owned by Skydance and its private equity partners. This company is not making money. Period.
True.
They had a big hit with Maverick a couple summers ago. That was a big deal, and that, I would argue, in some ways injected lifeblood into the poor theater chains that weren't getting any. It was what we call a movie with legs, but that was really because of Skydance and Tom Cruise. That wasn't really because of Paramount. They just worked with the distribution on that.
That is true.
They got really screwed over with Marvel, too. They used to be a big distributor for Captain America and Thor, right?
Yep.
And I think they were going to be the ones distributing any Avengers movies as well, right? Memory
Absolutely.
serves, and then Disney just bought it out.
Yep.
They keep spending a small fortune on these Star Trek series, which, do they make money? Do the DVDs sell? That's what I'm curious about. Do Discovery DVDs sell? Because one thing I'll say about Paramount, whatever I want to say about them, they do put their stuff out on DVD.
Yeah.
So their streaming series, they will put out
I
on
don't
DVD.
know because I've been that disinterested.
Yeah.
I'm guessing not. I'm really
like
guessing.
all the Yellowstone. Yeah, there's the article too. Click on there. But Paramount CEO Bob Backish could be out as soon as Monday as Skydance merger talks continue.
Yep.
But I don't know. Do you think we're going to have some news next week about him being out of there?
Well, it's going to happen tomorrow, so I mean, yeah, there'll be some talk about it, and we'll talk. We may bring it up if we have any updates. We'll let you know more about it next week. So for once, we're actually telling you what we may, at least one article we may be talking about for next week.
I'm sorry. We need a picture of the picture you sent me, Dogan the Dalek, and says, and have the picture of the new Doctor Who doing the twerking in the skirt. Remember the twerking? Right. Show that we've gone from this to this in one generation. It's like, oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. Is she? I forgot to mention when we were talking about the Pertwee. Her character left the doctor because she ended up getting married on the show.
Yep.
To a young, handsome man who was also a very smart scientist type. So
And as I
good
recall,
on her. Yeah.
she in during the I think it was during the Capaldi era, or maybe it was during
The Sarah Jane
the
Smith. She showed up.
oh, it was
Matt
yeah.
Smith.
Well, she did
It was
show up
Matt
with that.
Smith.
Yeah, yeah. And
Oh, she showed up in the Capaldi era too. I didn't know that. Okay.
I don't know if it was the Capaldi era or the Doctor Her era.
Okay.
One of those
Yeah,
two.
she showed up. Okay.
But
Yeah.
in fact, a number of the companions have reappeared to kind of let people know what they've been doing since whenever.
I always thought unfortunately, when Elizabeth Sladen died, I thought they could have continued that series on, but brought in the actress that played Ace to maybe take over that
That
part.
would have been interesting.
That would have been
And they
interesting.
certainly
That would
should
have
have
been
just
interesting,
continued
yeah.
it with the
With the kids.
son and the kids.
The kids,
yeah,
and have another
exactly.
companion take over. You know, I was a friend of your mother's, like, as we were both companions. I would have picked Ace. I think the actress that played Ace. I thought she
Actually,
was,
I think Joe Grant actually would have been the better choice.
probably, but I also think Ace was a different companion. She was more rock and roll than the other ones. I
Yeah,
always
she
noticed
was.
that she had
And
like that
she was
90s.
younger,
Yeah.
and
That's why I
you know.
thought she might have been in more. Yeah, instead of going with like an older actress, maybe one of the. I mean, she still wasn't young, but she was like middle aged at that point when that show was on. So I think they could have gone with her, maybe. But oh well. That's it. It's 11:01 on my side, and we are ending. Please tune in to Deleted Scenes channel at 12:05 for The Other Side of Midnight.
Yes, let me drop that link. You really should get over there for The Other Side of Midnight because it's a great way to wind out your weekend. Deleted Scenes is pretty awesome, and he's incredibly generous. He has been kind enough to take pity on a smaller YouTuber and ask him to come and co-host with him. And
Who is
so
this
I'm going to
YouTuber?
be doing that in about an hour.
Cool beans. And then let's see what else is going on. On tomorrow night on your channel, you will be having a double feature.
Yeah, I haven't decided what it's going to be yet, but I'm going to have some sort of a film, and I don't know. I'm thinking about another double feature.
Police Academy 2. There. No, I don't know.
It was one that was part of the poll when I started the Monday night at the movies.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to go ahead and call it right now. Tomorrow night, double feature, even though the stream isn't up yet. Double feature, Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom.
That's a good one.
Yep.
It's a good double feature. And then next week you can do Last Crusade and
No, there is nothing after Last Crusade.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
No.
Actually, you know what you could do if you want to do a double feature with you could do. Of course, you've done the Goonies on the other channels. Young Sherlock Holmes. There you go. I don't know.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
I like Young Sherlock Holmes. I did that on Birdman.
I could do a double feature: Young Sherlock Holmes and Young Einstein.
Oh, that'd be funny. Yeah, but I remember
that would actually be a good one.
Remember Young Sherlock Holmes? I like that movie. And at least at the beginning of the movie, it says, "Look, we know that this is we're just playing around. That they didn't meet each other until way later in life. This is like a what if." That's basically what they said at the beginning of the movie. And I thought it worked. I don't know. I enjoyed it when I saw it. I didn't catch it until it was on cable, but also serves as a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Remember at the end, he gets a Christmas present from Watson, and it's the pipe.
Yep.
Let's see. Tuesday night.
Tuesday
it has
night?
an incredible score. Yes, it does. Depensec. Yeah. Especially the Egyptian chanting song. Of course, there'd be an Egyptian sect living in the middle of London, inside a temple, an actual recreation of the temple made out of wood. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I'm sorry. So let's see. Tuesday is Sparkwind 21.
Yep. And for whatever reason, Twin Peaks is trending on Twitter. So I shared out the link for Live from Sparkwood in 21 because hey, you got to ride the wave when you can.
Wyndham Earl, man, things are heating up.
Yep. Yeah.
Saw Young Sherlock Holmes years ago. Don't remember much, but the bald Egyptian chick is any good. I enjoyed it. Some people didn't at the time. Your mileage will vary. You may or may not like it. I liked it. Interestingly, the scene with the stained glass knight that jumps out of the window attacking the I guess the vicar in the one scene. He's that was a early example of a Pixar special effect. A Pixar Animation Studios. I guess when Steve Jobs still owned it. What do you think?
Yeah.
In fact, they argue that that's one of the earliest Pixar created characters. Was that stained glass knight? Let's see. Wednesday, nothing going on this week. Thursday
over on Netters Network, we will be having a very special. In fact, he's here right now. Chris Selby.
Curtis.
I'm sorry, I was reading something else. Yeah, Curtis Selby.
Thursday things and that are Curtis Selby. Excellent. Well, that should be a fun stream. What are you going to talk about?
Him. Talk about him, talk about his channel, talk about how undersubbed he is, and you should really be subscribed to Curtis Selby. Talk about his content, how he became a YouTuber, and what else, whatever else comes up as we're talking.
I thought that was back when Pixar was a small new section of Lucasfilm. It probably was, because it was Industrial Light and Magic, the effects. They probably used those people to make the effect. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it was. So maybe it wasn't quite Pixar yet. Let's see. What else? In fact, that makes sense because remember Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, when they did the Genesis effect sequence, that was also done by early Pixar animators. Yeah. And that was also ILM that did the effects for that movie. So let's see. And then we get to Friday where we're going to talk about books. Dusty, moldy books.
Yep.
Troy will give his analysis of Anna Karenina. Actually, I don't know. Maybe you've read that book. I haven't. That's something that popped in my head.
I have, but I don't really feel like talking about it.
I know. You know what the funny thing is? There's always the great books that we haven't read, but then people start ragging off their great books they haven't read, and you're like, oh, I read that one. I read that one. You know, so it's like.
Well, here's the other thing too: the books that we all say are great. You read them. Maybe they're not as great as people say they are. Some of them are. Some of them deserve all the praise. Others are like, is this just good because it's old?
We should go into a lot of the books we've read, especially in our school days. Oh, man. I'll say this though: Slaughterhouse-Five, I had to read that one. I did enjoy a lot. Kurt Vonnegut, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Kurt
Vonnegut had a lot of very insightful stories that I think are very applicable today.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't read them, you should read them. Fahrenheit 451 is a great one.
That was Bradbury. I think you're thinking of Cat's Cradle.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Cat's Cradle. Yes,
I haven't read. I know of it, though. Yeah, Cat's Cradle is the other one. And Fahrenheit 451. Yes, that was Ray Bradbury. I tried getting the book out on CD to listen to the book version of it, like while I was driving, and then Ray Bradbury did the reading, and I'm like, nope.
Why?
Because he can't read.
Oh,
Ray Bradbury, the author. Shoot. He's not good at the dramatic. I think you can get a version now that's read by someone else. That's good.
That is a shame. That is a shame.
Great writer, but not all writers are good at reading their own work, and he was not.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know who was a great reader of Ray Bradbury, though? You can find it on YouTube. If you listen to the story Usher 2, there's a Leonard Nimoy reads Ray Bradbury's Usher 2.
Yeah.
Wonderful recording of that story. All right. Told me about Steppenwolf when I was in my 20s. I didn't like it. Then I 40s I read it again and loved it. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's a matter of perspective.
You said the book. I keep thinking of the band. Steppenwolf, Born to Be Wild. Is that right?
Yeah, that's not what he meant, but yes.
Okay, whatever.
Elizabethan is wonderful, but only if you're used to it. Yeah, that's the other thing. Language. You have to kind of be able to understand the language, And I'll tell you what, the hardest thing about the Canterbury Tales is reading that very archaic English.
Yes.
It's tough. You have to. I mean, it's great if you're reading it because you're trying to learn, that old style of English, but. Certain words don't mean what they did back then. Certain words aren't pronounced the way they were back then. It's a challenge. I was surprised that Lew Wallace, who wrote it, was the same
General Wallace from the Civil War Union
Yeah,
side. Yes,
exactly.
That's a fascinating story. He started out as a non-believer before he wrote the book. By the time he was done, he considered himself, I am now a Christian. He said non-denominational, but I am a Christian. I'm one with, that's what he said. Because he said writing the book changed him, which I thought was interesting.
Deleted Scenes brings up Magic Carpet Ride, of course, reference to Steppenwolf. Also, yes, a reference to First Contact Day in Star Trek.
What was interesting, though, about the Ben-Hur, you mentioned you took you for to read the book. We have the audio book of Ben-Hur in the library, unabridged. You don't want to know how many discs this thing is.
I can imagine.
I think more than 50, probably more than that. It was this humongous case that came in. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, yeah, I'll have stuff to talk about Ben-Hur on Friday. Anyway, for Saturday, what you doing? What's the movie? Big Al's channel?
Saturday we're on Big Al, and I don't remember what it is, so let me see if I can find it. I know he told me.
Are you starting your Saturday morning streams yet, or are you holding off on that?
Don't know. Oftentimes I won't know until Saturday, so just make sure.
You should do one of your Saturday mornings. You should do the Captain Marvel and ISIS rewatch hour. Maybe that would be as a callback.
That might be kind of. That might be kind of fun. That might actually be kind of fun to do. I forgot. Yeah, it's the Ralph. We're starting Ralph Bakshi on Big Al's channel, and we're starting out with Wizards from 1977.
Oh boy, Ralph Bakshi.
Yeah,
I'm an animation buff. For whatever reason, I could not quite ever get into Ralph Bakshi.
Really?
I don't know what it was about him. There was a weirdness factor to his stuff is weird. Wizards. It had that fairy in it. I remember her for reasons. Anyway,
well, let me suggest to you this: if you only are aware of Ralph Bakshi from your childhood, you would have a very weird feeling about him and his animation style.
Because you weren't supposed to be watching it when you were a kid. Yes.
Exactly. Ralph Bakshi, his style, his content, and everything is geared towards adults. And for everybody who's out there saying animation doesn't have to be for kids, look at all this anime that's not for kids. Blah, 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 blah. Ralph Bakshi.
We were doing it over here too. Yeah.
Ralph Bakshi was the front lines for animation is a great way to tell a story, and it doesn't have to be for kids.
Yes. We've had that in the States. In fact, I would argue that while Batman the Animated Series could be watched by kids, I considered it an animated drama, and it was more cueing.
It was more young adults to teens, yeah.
What it really was channeling, in my opinion, for the style and the content would be like how a kid can watch an old Hollywood gangster movie from the 40s.
Yeah. Yeah,
it was like that, but it still had authority to it. Yes,
that's clearly where they took their inspiration from. Yes.
So Wizards loved it. Well, Curtis, you'll have to talk about it on Thursday, maybe, or maybe you can check it out.
Well, we'll certainly mention what's coming up on Saturday again on Thursday. So definitely an opportunity to bring it up again.
Okay, well, that about wraps us up. Then we'll be back on Sunday. You can check out Deleted Scenes channel during the week for other events, including Western Cinema Sunday. He did The Gambler today with
Kenny Rogers.
Kenny Rogers. I love that song, don't you?
I do too. Yes. Did you ever see the when Kenny Rogers was on the Muppets and they did a version?
I need to watch that now because I was thinking, is he going to say the Muppets? Now I need to watch that.
Yeah.
Did he do a cover of that song on the?
Yes,
Muppets
he did.
show? I need to watch. I need to find that now.
it takes place on a train sitting next to a Muppet who is the gambler and so forth. And yeah,
It's so funny.
you gotta check it out. It's
funny if he's with other Muppets at the table. And they could have just been Muppets made for that sequence. They didn't even have to be regulars. They could have been ones they just made specifically for that sequence.
Check it out. It's definitely worth it. I think you'll get a kick out. In fact, it's probably on YouTube somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised.
And you can check Deleted Scenes channel before my show. Always the official pre-show of Geeky Geezers. He will be doing Unscripted, where he will go off on a topic this week. Today he was doing he was doing the current thing. I guess people who support the current thing. By the way, I've heard certain protests going right now are funded by a certain someone living in Europe who's funded other things.
Someone with a distinctly German accent, creepily so.
You, I don't know. I don't have I don't have official word on that because I heard someone saying it online. If that's true, dude, that's a level of evil. Anyway, Agemer and Troy, great job tonight. Thanks for doing the stream tonight. Had been a great time. Lots of great points have been made. Once more for the history books. Yes. Well, like I said, the creepy German guy. Yes. And I'm German descent myself. That's one of my ancestries. But yeah, that's.
And good night. Take care. Stay strong. This is how we win. But don't take care for too long. Take care for about the next hour. Then we should be over on Deleted Scenes channel.
Good. Catch you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.